Hello students, welcome to the SS class. Students, we shall be learning the very first chapter of your civics, power sharing. Civics is all about democracy, it's all about understanding how government works, it's all about what goes on in the country in political area. So, this chapter power sharing is all about to explain you that how is power shared in any country. Before understanding the power sharing forms, your textbook wants you to go through two examples, two case study of a country called Belgium and case study of Sri Lanka. From these two stories, you will get to know that how important it is to divide power, to share power. And then finally the heart of the chapter, forms of power sharing, shall be explained. So students, I take you to a story of country called Belgium. Belgium is a very small country in Europe, maybe smaller than our state Haryana also, with a very less population, with countries as neighbors like Netherlands, Germany, Luxembourg. A very small country has a beautiful story. See students, in life everybody has problems. Same way in every country there are problems. But how you deal with your problem, how you solve your problem is very important, right? So in Belgium, out of 100 Belgians, that is out of 100% population, 40% were French speaking people. 59% were Dutch speakers and 1% were Germans, the Germany speaking people. So here these 1% people are good with everything. They don't have any problem. They are happy that they live in that country. But the problem was with these two. What the problem was? Well, these 40% French, they were lesser in number, right? These are 59, so almost 60-40. So they were quite dominating in terms of population, but they were poor and less educated. And these French were rich and very educated. I mean, relatively rich. On the other hand, there was some controversy in the capital city. The capital city of Belgium is Brussels. And in Brussels, these Dutch were minority and these less French in the entire country. The average French are minority, but they were majority in Brussels. Already they are relatively rich and educated, and they are more in the capital city as well. So there is some problem. The problem is that these Dutch envy the French. They feel that they being more in number should get all the priorities. They should, because see, in any country when voting goes, and if these people are majority and they will vote their people only, then these French will never get turned to get a good government, or maybe get certain norms that are French friendly. So the problem was that these people wanted more money and more education. These people wanted more dominance on government. And Brussels was entirely a different story. Here situation was very pathetic. The situation was such that the national majority were minority. Can you relate this with India's Bengal movement, Bang Bang movement, where East Bengal and West Bengal were divided on the basis of Hindus and Muslims mixed in a way that one is minority and another is majority? So what I am trying to say is, whenever there is majority-minority issue, the minority will feel pressure of being less in number. But here, they were rich also. So majority were insecure about their financial wealth. So there was kind of problem. Now what problem solution should be found out? As you understood the problems here, now we will come towards the solution part. The first solution was that though they were unequal, they were 59 and 40, they got equal seats. So the representation of Dutch and French went equal. So no partiality, nothing doing. both get equal opportunity to represent them, their problems in the constitution. Fair power sharing. It was not that only central government got the powers, even state government had so many powers. This was an arrangement made. Separate government for Brussels. Since there was lot of minority majority issue in Brussels, they got a separate government. And here also, like at national level, here at the state level also, they had equal representation. Though the rich were dominating and more in number, and though the poor were less in number, both of them they got equal presentation. And that's really good. There would be no problem related to partiality, no problem related to exploitation, related to suppressing somebody. All are equal, irrespective to their economic prosperity, irrespective to their number, irrespective to the gender, nothing, all equal. The constitution was revised for 4 times between 1970 to 1993. You need to remember the data, children. 4 times the constitution got revised. And finally, in order to uplift each one, there was yet another type of government setup called community government. This is the beauty of Belgium story. In order to promote culture, education and language of each one, there was a separate government. And they had nothing to do with politics, and political government had nothing to do with the community government. State government had a lot of power. You see, it's a quite win-win situation, isn't it, children? So, there were problems, but the problems were beautifully solved. That's the story of Belgium. Now, I shall be sharing with you the story of Sri Lanka. So, what happened in Sri Lanka? As we know, excuse my drawing, children, that this is India and Sri Lanka is quite nearer, a neighbor to us. Again, a very small country like Belgium. People from India, specifically the Tamils, they migrated to Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka was a place where the Sinhala people, the Sri Lankan citizens, they lived, but it is Indian Tamils who went and settled in Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan government was not objecting the coming of Indian Tamils, but sooner or later problem came up. Now what this problem was? Let us first understand the ethnic composition. From that you will make out the problem. So this 74% population of Sri Lanka were the Sinhala people, the Sinhalese. And 18% population was Tamil. And 8 were others. Now out of the 74% Sinhala who were the actual inhabitants of Sri Lanka, they followed Buddhist religion, few followed Christianity. So basically the Sinhala had they had their language called Sinhalese. They had the religion that they followed is Buddhism, and they were 74%. They were the main people, the main citizens of Sri Lanka. Now the Tamils who were 18% had 2 categories. One, Tamils who came from India. So they are known as Indian Tamils. And those Tamils who stayed there and then they had their children who were born in Sri Lanka, they were known as Sri Lankan Tamils. So these Sri Lankan Tamils were 13% and Indian Tamils were 5%. These Tamils, they were either Hindus or Muslims or Christians. And their language was Tamil. So 2 type of majority people, these others, they were all mixed and they did not had any problem, just the way Germans did not have had any problem in Belgium. So here these 74% Sinhalese speakers, Buddhist religion followers, they had problem with Tamils, and these 18% Tamils also had this minority issue with Sinhala. Now, So because these Tamils were insecure, they put some demands. These are the demands of Tamils to the Sri Lankan government. The first one was, recognize our language. We live here since years, we are 18% population of the country, then please recognize our language. This was the demand. Second, since we are economically not that settled, please give us a reservation in jobs. And when can we be qualified for good jobs? When we are better educated. So please give us a reservation in education seats. So these were three primary demands: the recognition of language, the reservation of jobs, and the reservation in education seats. The three demands of Tamils, and what was the reaction of government? Just see. Sinhalese language was declared as official because Sinhala were the original inhabitants, they were the actual citizens. So their language got official recognition and these people could not get Tamil as recognized language. The reservation was denied. Neither jobs nor education seats will be reserved. And when people raised their voice, when these people tried to say that government cannot be unfair, they were suppressed. Government tried to suppress them. So they felt very bad. And then there was civil war. Civil war is the war with people internally in society between Tamils and Sinhalese. It's like unofficially they started boycotting each other. The Sinhala will not buy anything from Tamil store. The Tamil one will not favor anything to the Sinhalese. There was bitterness in people. They were not happy with each other and government did not care. Government thought that everything will be suppressed, everything will be fine, but then nothing gets fine on its own unless and until government interferes. And then rebellious groups were created. A very good, cool and calm country got converted into a country with lot of unrest. Why? Is it because government could not take proper step? You see, such minority-majority issue was the same in Belgium also. But Belgian government took the problem very seriously, worked upon a win-win situation and came up with such a situation wherein there won't be any ill consequences of the decision. Everybody were happy. But somehow this could not happen with Sri Lanka. So here, why your NCERT textbook wants you to understand the problem and solution of Belgium, wants you to understand the problem and more problems of Sri Lanka, is to convince you that it is very important that whenever there will be problems in country, government has to come up with good solutions. You could relate that power was shared very well in Belgium and here power was given only to Sinhalese and therefore Tamils had this sentiment of getting hurt and that's why civil war came up, that's why rebellious groups came up and country could not progress. So then how should power be shared? What are the ways of power sharing? Where the chapter actually starts, where the chapter actually matters is what we will learn in the next class. I hope that you are now clear with the problems and solutions of Belgium and problems and improper solutions of Sri Lanka. See you in the next class, children.